Well, fresh off his trip back stateside after the Chiefs, of course, beat the Dolphins on Sunday in Frankfurt, he joins us on KCMO. The mayor of Kansas City, Quinton Lucas, is here on 95.7 FM. Mr. Mayor, good morning. And just want to start off, how much business did you, Laura Kelly, and Mike Kehoe end up bringing back from Frankfurt? What do we have to look forward to here?
Well, I am very proud of the work that we were able to do. A few different meetings that were of particular support, and one I can't talk about fully yet, but one relates, of course, to Bayer. Their investments already in the state of Missouri, looking to see what we can do to expand that relationship. Huge multinational conglomerate. Probably a lot of Pete Mundo listeners work there, so we're excited about that. We are also looking at a few other upcoming manufacturing opportunities. If we're able to land one of these deals, then I think it could be a game changer for Kansas City on the Missouri side. So stay tuned in connection with all that.
All right. Well, we will keep an eye on all that and much more. And good time at the game. How did the stadium atmosphere compare to Arrowhead?
Fantastic experience. Nothing matches Arrowhead Stadium, but it probably was one of the more entertaining game venues I've been to. Kind of that 40,000 type seats, the roof up top. It made for this thrilling experience. Tons of Chiefs fans. And I talked to a lot of Kansas Cityans, expatriates, military, and others who live over in Germany now. Had just a wonderful time visiting with them, talking to a lot of people who are helping spread the brand of Kansas City. So I think, all in all, a big success. I thank my friends from the Chamber for making it a possibility for myself and some of our other figures to make it out there and to be able to share what Kansas City is all about. I also visited with the United States ambassador to Germany, a very helpful woman who said anytime we're looking at business opportunities in Central Europe to make sure we're stopping by. So on the whole, a good weekend for Kansas City, the Kansas City Chiefs, the brands of Missouri and Kansas. And I look forward to building more of these relations because I think our team from the Midwest, is one of the best in building its international presence. So go Chiefs. And every time they go somewhere, they got Kansas City on their chest.
That is good to hear. Mayor Lucas on KCMO. All right, so back to regular business this week, and I saw this yesterday that you proposed an ordinance that would strengthen the city's fight against fentanyl. We know it's a huge problem that crosses all demographic groups. It doesn't really matter. It's impacting everybody all over the country as well, including Kansas City. What is that ordinance? What would it do? And what's the cost associated with it?
Let me, and I know it's radio and I shouldn't talk forever, but I'm going to give you a little background on it. I was visiting with the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, some months ago now, and we were talking about the fentanyl crisis in both of our cities. As you know, he's former law enforcement, so he has worked around narcotics and other such things for years. He convened a summit. I was not able to attend. However, we sent a KCPD sergeant who works largely with fentanyl. We sent an outstanding chief science officer from our health department, and the two came back with ideas. And I asked them, what do we need to do? And they said, step one, we need to make sure that we are tracing where a lot of this fentanyl is coming from, both from a law enforcement perspective, also from a health department perspective. So we are looking at better tracing. That's information that the health department receives. However, they work closely with law enforcement to make sure if it's at a high school, at a club, whatever, where a lot of people are getting these sorts of things, we track that down. That's step one. The second is making sure we have better data reporting on what overdoses are happening. I know that somebody who's suffering from an overdose is a victim, but it's also a crime. We need to make sure that we're tracking that down, that we can get support sources, law enforcement resources, and others to places we need it quickly. Another thing that we're doing is making sure we build a task force where people are breaking down barriers and working together. It shouldn't just be that hospitals know about a problem or schools, but the sheriff's office, the police department doesn't. So we're working through all of that and breaking that down. And then finally, on cost, that's the thing you should be most delighted about of all, because we actually already have individuals in the health department who do this level of tracing. It'd be my view that we can shift them over to this area. As you remember from the COVID-19 crisis, we had folks who did that type of work too. So we have that opportunity and availability. One thing I did say yesterday, which I would love, if we had local control of the police, I would tomorrow hire 5 detectives who are working on particularly these narcotics types of areas, fentanyl in particular, making sure they're there, that there's enough to investigate, and that there are enough to help us build up as many charges as we probably need to file in all of our counties. And I will note this. People always say, right, things are a Jackson County issue. And the Clay County portion of Kansas City, we have a true fentanyl crisis. And so we need to make sure that in all of our jurisdictions, we're bringing as many charges as we need to.
Well, you're right. It is a crisis. And, I ask this next question and say it, whether it's you or Mayor Adams in New York, with all due respect, but how, when you guys are having these conversations, how do you not look at the border policies of the White House, which is a party you guys both affiliate with, and say, hey, we're trying to basically plug a fire hose with a pin here is what we're trying to do?
I think that's a fair question, and Lord knows that Mayor Adams has certainly had a lot of comments in relation to that. What I might say is this. Yeah, if we are very simple, look, if we're trying to solve the problem, stopping somebody who has handed a friend a pill on Vivian Road, then we are missing a whole lot of stuff that happened before that. How did the pill get here? Who's trafficking it? How do they manage to get it in the quantities that they do? Who's making money long term? How does it get into America? I think that when you're looking at source countries, certainly Mexico is one. China is largely another. And we're getting a lot through that pathway as well, coming from our western border on our coast. And so I agree. I think there are concrete steps we need to do. I've always supported actually having clear border policy. I think we need to have clear immigration enforcement. I'm someone who's a realist about how we need to make sure migrants who are here, right, particularly if they have children who are present in the United States, are folks who can be treated humanely. But at the same time, yeah, we do need to make sure we're addressing it. That being said, look, I'm blessed to be the mayor of Kansas City, not the Secretary of Homeland Security. Maybe one day they'll make me that, although I don't know how likely that is. But so I'm going to do all I can from the Kansas City perspective, and we will continue to make noise back to Washington, to the White House about some of the issues that we continue to have. While both myself and Mayor Adams are able to often have a forum with them, we'll make sure they do hear from us about real costs and challenges of the crisis back here in Kansas City.
Meantime, Mayor Lucas is on KCMO. I know that the ballot issues here, specifically in Jackson County this week, you guys, or not you guys, the voters, of course, renewed the tax for the bus service to continue, 3/8 cent for 10 years. But then, of course, question one failed, and that was the question based on a local use tax for the purpose of financing road and bridge construction projects within the county. But, of course, then it went on to talk about, improving courthouses and financial assistance for homeless and people at risk of becoming homeless. Do you think the no vote that won overwhelmingly, was that really about that issue, or was that about basically the taxpayer and the voters saying to Jackson County and maybe Kansas City too, these are tough times and we're not going to continue to get fleeced on the tax front? What do you think the message was there from the Jackson County voter, since you are one?
Hell have no fury like a county scorned, right? And so I think what we saw, and look, my stuff's been put out in the press, so I too am someone who had a very substantial property tax increase. I think most people in Jackson County, if you were to say Jackson County and tax in the same sentence, right, their antenna is going up right now. We have had a lot of conversations on this program. I know you've had other people who have talked to you a lot about the Jackson County property tax assessment debacle. I think we've seen the county executive and others strike out at some of us who've had comments about it. But I think if you walked through and talked to the normal person, I was at a Chiefs game where a guy came up to me and said, Mayor Q, what's over these property taxes? And I said, that's actually not what the city does. And he says, that Frank, dude, what's he doing to us, right? I mean, it's the sort of thing where there are a lot of people that are saying, wait a minute, what has happened? Why do you need more money? Where's that extra money going to, distinct from where this is going? And yes, there are a lot of nuances. Most of the property tax money, for example, is actually going to public schools and all the different jurisdictions and all of that. That being said, I think people have concerns. So I do see it fundamentally as a rejection of taxes. I think it is a comment by the people of Jackson County to say that they don't like how things have worked lately. And that's what you saw the big no vote for. Mm-hmm. That being said, in terms of Kansas City, look, I had another election where we had about 78% of the vote. I've now had a lot of ballot initiatives, Pete, since I've been mayor, most of which have been renewals, a few bond elections on new costs, where just about each time we get 80% of the vote. And I remember I got reelected with 80% of the vote. I think the people of Kansas City support largely what we've been able to do. They support the city's growth. They support the responsibility and the transparency by which we do it. And I would distinguish those two institutions, but I absolutely agree, as a Jackson Countyan, there are a lot of questions about how the county is spending money. And I think that was a referendum largely on what's happened the last 6 months in Jackson County as much as anything.
That's what it seems to me as well. Mayor Lucas is on KCMO. Last thing, Mr. Mayor, on all this. I saw that Emmanuel Cleaver, of course, our congressman, there was a sit-in protest in Congressman Cleaver's office calling for a ceasefire. You've seen a lot of that unfold in Washington, D.C. as well, between Israel and Hamas and that conflict. I don't know if anyone's asked you. I mean, where are you on all this and what we've seen play out between Israel and the Gaza Strip over the last couple of weeks?
There are people who ask me and tag me on social media posts and all that sort of stuff, usually from the side that doesn't like where I stand. But, this is where I stand. It's where I stood for some time, which is that Israel is our ally, both strategic and through moral terms, has been for years, will continue to be. I certainly agree with the administration's approach right now in a few different ways. One, Israel has the right to defend itself, but two, certainly looking at as humanitarian as Israel can be, as it carries out the war effort against Hamas that took the lives of over 1,400 Israelis, continues to hold hundreds of Israeli hostages. I grieve for the loss of life for any civilian innocents, whether they're Israelis, Palestinians, or anyone else in a country up to and including here in Kansas City. That being said, I don't believe this is a war Israel started. It's not a fight that they were looking to pick, and it's one where I think we need to continue to remain on the side of those who believe in democracy, those who believe in following the rules of international law and engagement. That is not Hamas. That is Israel. And while I understand the popular angst in our country right now relating to it, I'm happy to meet with, talk to, or listen to anybody and share this very point. I do not think that this is a time for us to go weak in our standing with our ally.
There you go. Mayor Lucas on KCMO. We always appreciate the time, sir, and we will talk to you next week. Thank you so much.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
All right. That is Quinton Lucas on KCMO 95.7 FM.